welcome back to Corridors of Power. This is a very different episode, not with a VVIP in that sense from the government, but this is Chinni Krishna, who's doing honorary work. He's the Vice Chairperson of the Animal Welfare Board of India. Chinni, talking about again the Animal Welfare Act, when do you see that actually seeing the light of day? For 50 years we've had an outdated act. Yes, we've got many outdated. The Indian Penal Code is also of 1860 vintage, but when do you see this act actually coming into force?
Well, right now it's with the minister, and
It's not really a priority for people, so do you
it's
see
not a
this
priority.
hanging fire for a long time?
Jayanti Natarajan did inherit a lot of other major issues which he had to handle, but I'm sure that it will be taken care of. Hopefully, in the January, early next year, it should be going into Parliament. Once it goes in, I'm fairly certain that we'll be able to have it passed. But in the meantime, we have to make sure that the version that goes in is the version that has been given by the Animal Welfare Board. After all, the Animal Welfare Board is the authority, statutory authority to recommend to the government the kind of legal support and other things that we require.
What will be some of the punitive measures? I mean, when you see, for instance, a person stoning, you see dogs on the road and you find little children deliberately take a stone and throw at the dog. You find people, for instance, overloading bulls. You've got the Jallikattu. Do you think the the Welfare Act, the new version when it comes, will be able to address some of these issues?
Well,
Jallikattu, for instance, I know been a raging battle, particularly in southern Tamil Nadu, where a section of people feel that it's a sport of valor.
the measures that have been proposed in the draft bill that we have gone through are fairly steep, but then
How will it address Jallikattu, for instance?
you know, Jallikat, where the perpetrator of the cruelty can afford to pay, I'm fairly certain that the government is now, the courts are veering to a zero tolerance level. I mean, you know, when we say we are an intolerant society, there are various things about which you can be intolerant. But there must be intolerance towards cruelty, there must be intolerance towards not implementing the law, there must be intolerance towards certain things.
But people say it's a sport of valor, it's tradition, it's Tamil culture.
You know, 2000 years ago, Tiruvallur walked on the same land where Jallikattu is practiced today. And he spoke only about kindness to animals. It's no sport. Where is the sport when an animal is hog-tied, literally by blinding it with castor oil, by giving it intoxicants, by rubbing chili powder in the eyes and the anus? That's not a sport or a show of valor.
Okay, but if there are sufficient guidelines, like for instance barricading, and also prevention of cruelty to the animal without using all the chili powder, drugs and all that, then?
On principle, no. I mean, the animal is terrified. The law says that the 5 freedoms should be given. Freedom to exhibit natural behavior, for example. Freedom from mental and physical torture. This is pure physical torture, added to which there will be mental torture, because I mean the animal doesn't even know what's happening to it. Under no circumstances will any animal person accept a
So you're
bullfight.
saying Jallikattu will be in contravention of the new Animal Welfare Act?
No, Jallikattu is already in contravention of the notification brought out by the minister on the 11th of July, in which bulls have been brought in as performing animals, and under which a bull cannot be used as a performing animal.
Talking of performing animals, we had a dolphin city in the outskirts of Chennai. The use of dolphins, the use of seals and all that. Again, I can see there's a horse going on. Even at the Marina Beach, there used to be these people going in for horse rides. And of course, the horses, very, sick horses without, with injuries, carrying injuries. What do you propose to do about all that?
You know, as far as Dolphin City, since you mentioned Dolphin City specifically, let's face it.
The dolphins died. They were
The three
overworked. The allegation was that they were overworked.
It's not that there was no person who was qualified to treat marine mammals. Number one. Number two, these dolphins live for 35, 40, 50 years in the sea. We managed to kill them in 2 years. What more cruelty can we perpetrate?
Okay. When you see, for instance, when let's say an animal lover sees, a bull being overloaded, what should they do?
Well, as per the law, we can't enforce the law.
You have to give a police complaint.
They have to give a police complaint, and you'll be surprised. When I met the DGP yesterday, I was pleasantly very surprised.
Police is already overworked. They don't have enough people. The bandobast duty is there.
That's true. That is true. I mean, with keeping all that in mind, what I requested him was, I said, while we would like all the policemen to be kind all the time, there is
You
an
had, I
animal.
remember some years ago, I remember you got in your good friend, actress Amala, who was a brand ambassador for what I did was a function called Nights in Khaki. Some years ago, I remember covering that, Nights in Khaki.
Correct. Yeah.
Where you actually
absolutely.
you actually honored
policemen.
police
We got
officers,
one person
yes.
from Coimbatore and 3 from Madras,
Yes.
to whom a special award was given that was for work beyond the normal call of duty. But even under the normal call of duty, there is plenty that the police could do. And if the people know that the law is going to be enforced, Sanjay, you'll be surprised at how many would buckle down and obey. Today they know they can get away with almost anything.
Now again, if you go to certain parts of Chennai, like for instance, near Vivekananda College, you'll find donkeys tied to that pole. I'm seeing the same donkey almost for years on end. That's not cruelty?
That donkey, we have tried several times to rescue it. The owner says that it's my donkey, but then he keeps it tied with a rope which is just 2 feet long.
Yes, and
in the
and
rain,
pouring
in the
rain,
sun,
and yes, yeah.
it's there constantly. Mr. Don Williams is going to go pick it up in the next couple of days, positively.
Okay. But
It doesn't matter. We will face the consequences. Let
And
him
bring
give
the
a
donkey
police
here
complaint.
and,
Bring the donkey here and see what we can do.
Again, when it comes to experiments, again, the Act, in fact, chapters 4 and 5 of the new draft bill deal with experiments. Now, in for instance, dissection and thing, now they don't really need to do that. There are changes brought about, right? The students don't
Well,
have to go through.
a lot of changes have come about. In 1996, when the CPCA was reconstituted, right away a proposal was brought in to ban dissection at school level. In 1997, the Blue Cross and the PFA and 9 others had gone to court in Delhi to stop dissection in school level, saying that children must be given the option to say no to dissection on ethical grounds. The High Court ruled that that was correct. And so in 1997, on May 30th, the first breakthrough was made by which the school children were allowed to say no. But then by 2000, we had it stopped at school level. Everybody has stopped it except a few state boards who do minimal dissection. But more important is that very recently the UGC released guidelines under which at zoology they have said that only one experiment will be done and the students would only watch. Sanjay, basically at that level.
These are the formative years. These are the formative years.
In school, it's totally unforgivable. Let's face it. The University of Cambridge, the University of Oxford, every major school system banned dissection 20 years ago. And most of them in the US are not doing it today, not because of the experiment causing cruelty on the animal. They are doing it because they want maximum bang for the buck. And they know that dissection in no way prepares a child for anything other than to make it less squeamish cutting an animal open.
Shini, again, dog shows. I know you've been an avid basher of the pedigree concept, and you've also talked about what people call the pie dog, which is actually a mongrel.
It's the real pedigree.
That's a real pedigree.
Yeah.
Dog shows, I mean, what's the cruelty on display there?
It's not the dog show per se. It's the fact that many
the
of the
training that
breeds-
goes into that.
It's
the
many of
run-up.
the, it's
there was a
the-
dog. In fact, I think there was a dog which in fact collapsed out of sheer exhaustion a few years ago.
Two
the dog show.
years ago. Not just one dog, 3 or 4 dogs collapsed. And because they had been made to go round and round, 10 times and 12 times. The fact is that many of the dogs, like a Saint Bernard for example, the Afghan hound, the most beautiful dog you can see really, they're not meant for a climate like Madras.
So you're saying they shouldn't be allowed into the country?
There are certain breeds, many of them, the larger breeds are being
Unless
smuggled
they
in.
live in hill stations or something.
Well, hills, that's different. The climatic conditions, if they permit the dog to be comfortable over there, it's fine. But these kind of dogs being brought here, kept in an artificial air-conditioned room, I don't think it's correct. And number 2, and more important, for a person who's getting a dog, the average dog on the street gives more love, or at least equal love, to those dogs. Most people who own these big animals own them as status symbols. And they have no compunctions in throwing them out when there's a model change. When the pug becomes the dog of the season, out go the retrievers. When the retrievers are gone, out come the Dobermans, the Rottweilers. The Rottweiler, for example, is purely bought as a status symbol.
Or even the English pointers, for instance.
Yeah.
You don't really need the hunting dogs here. And
no. It's brought in purely on an onus whim to own something different, one-upmanship over the neighbor.
But people say in terms of watchdogs, there's nothing to beat an Alsatian, there's nothing to beat a Doberman.
It's not a watchdog.
A Doberman again is a hunting dog.
The average mongrel is makes as alert a watchdog as anything else. Those are attack dogs. If you want your intruder to be bitten or chewed up, nice and proper, yes, maybe it would justify keeping a Rottweiler or an Alsatian, but not if you want it genuinely as a watchdog, in the sense that a watchman will alert you if there's something wrong.
So you don't have any of these pedigree dogs at home? In your sprawling bungalow in
I won't say we don't have any. I think we have a Dachshund which is probably.
But I've seen there were some of them which were injured and all that.
One
dog which had one eye.
Yeah, that was the dog. We have a lot of dogs. We have, out of the 14 dogs we have a Dachshund which is almost pure Dachshund. But what is a pure Dachshund? That's a breed that has been developed in the last 200 years.
Again, this is something that I've always wondered as a little boy. Why is that the Doberman doesn't have a tail? The docking of tails isn't that also an act of cruelty?
the docking of tails, the ear cropping, tongue myotomy, they even trim the tongue of dogs so that it doesn't hang out for dog shows. These are specifically banned in the PC Act, and I'm delighted to tell you that the chairman of the Veterinary Council of India, General Mohanty, has sent out an advisory to the VCI that no longer should this be permitted and it should not be allowed in dog shows. So any dog which has been surgically mutilated should not be permitted. And this is the standard all over the world. We are following standards which were in the dog shows and Crufts and other things 30 years ago.
Yeah, but what is the logic behind cutting off the Doberman, the tail of the
Perceived
Doberman?
beauty.
Beauty.
Perceived beauty. I mean, why do some people go and have an eye change or a nose job?
What about there was something said about the bulldog also?
You see, a lot of these dogs have been artificially bred to have certain characteristics.
The face of a bulldog.
The pug, for example, is bronchocephalic because it can't breathe. It takes 3 steps and it begins to pant. These are all dogs that have been artificially bred to give certain characteristics. Beauty, like contact lenses, is in the eyes of the beholder.
Right. On that note, Chini, thank you very much for joining
Thank you.
us.
It's been a great pleasure.
More strength to you and to your cause, to the
Thank
Blue
you.
Cross and the Animal Welfare Board. Hopefully you'll get that act soon in place. Until then, at least we at NDTV Hindu will keep the focus on animal welfare and will highlight instances of cruelty whenever they come to light.
Thank you. Your channel has been most supportive all along.
Thank you. Thank you, Chini.